I'm here with Dennis Hodson, Director of the Dudley Community Partnership. We've just finished a board meeting. And Dennis, I wanted to ask you, back in November, the board hosted a big society event. Can you just tell us briefly what's happened since then?
Well, the event in November was really just to get board members and the wider public and community sector to have a general discussion around what big society meant from them, and an opportunity to listen to people who are operating on the national as well as local stage as to what their interpretation was. So whilst it was a very successful event and feedback from it has been very encouraging, it probably got hidebound a little bit by debate over the concept of big society. So it was more of an academic sort of discussion than a practical discussion. Today was an attempt to say, how do we make this forward? How do we make this real? Whatever it is, and let's not spend too much time debating. For me, it's as simple as a change in relationship between those within the community who want to influence change and those within the service provision sector who are prepared to actually deliver services in a different way, recognising that the financial constraints that everybody's operating in are such that we cannot deliver all services in the same way we have in the past. Today I think was a useful step forward in actually making that real and understanding what that means and how that relationship can be brought about, how we can engage in different ways, and I think a recognition around the table that whilst we have a lot of strengths and lots of things we can build on, there are some things we need to do differently as individual agencies, as partners collectively. And I was reassured today by the willingness for people to accept that things perhaps did need to change right around the partnership, and a willingness to start that process.
That's great. And what do you think are the most important steps that we take next?
Well, as you saw from today's event, we've all agreed to commit to actions for our agencies, for us as individuals. Because that took place at the end, I haven't had the chance to see what that means. So we need to understand that and see what the gaps are in that. I mean, it's encouraging that people made that personal as well as organisational commitment. We need to understand what that means. We need to look at that against what we believe we needed to do, which came out in the wider discussion, to see where the gaps are. We want to keep this as a standing agenda item there. Things are changing. We talked today about changes that we've seen in our own organisations, in requests from the public for doing things differently. So the main thing for us is now we started the ball rolling. We started it in one way in November. The momentum started with a bit more gusto since, and to maintain that and to make it real and to make it practical and to make it understandable. We talked about celebrating what we do, and I think in a time when there's not a lot to be celebrated with all the cuts that are taking place, actually let's celebrate that, but then let's move on from there and let's have more things to celebrate in 6 and 12 months' time, because Dudley is different for everybody who lives and works.
Great. Thank you very much, Dennis.